Our time spent in Ahmedabad was an emotionally charged and intellectually rich experience. While there were innumerable concepts, strategies, and ideas I learned on the subject of development communication over the course of those 10 days, I have selected to expand on a few things that particularly resonated with me. First and foremost, I learned the importance of adopting a participatory approach when carrying out development communication. This requires one to get as close as possible to its audience and permit them to assume a greater role in the process and production of the development work itself. Furthermore, a participatory approach ensures that the project stakeholders have a greater sense of responsibility for the development project as well. A great example of the participatory approach in action can be seen in the work that is being done by Drishti Media. A sense of interchange is present in the relationships that Drishti forges with its audiences, as they understand that empowered audiences have the potential to become empowered communicators. Unlike some organizations, which Paulo Mephalopoulos argues adopt a participatory approach to satisfy the perceived morality in doing so brings, Drishti innately adopts a participatory approach because they understand that this produces the greatest results. Moreover, it was enlightening to discover that Drishti adopts a participatory approach regardless of the scope of the project they are working on. From their advocacy communication driven radio campaign that addressed the consequences of practicing blind faith, to the community produced documentary play piece which addressed the 2002 Gujarat riots as it attempts to bridge the Muslim Hindu divide, Drishti places a very strong importance on community involvement in each of its endeavors. Next, and equally as important, I learned about the importance of context. As you stress in Communication for Another Development, development communication practitioners must actively listen to the stakeholders to best understand the context of the project they are working on and make the best informed decisions about the project accordingly. On the theme of context, one example that particularly stood out for me from our time in Ahmedabad was the case of the Asiatic lion, explained to us by Kartikeya Sarabhai, director of the Center for Environmental Education. When CEE proposed to introduce the endangered Asiatic lion into a neighboring state that boasts similar habitat, it was met with opposition from the Gujarati state government, as they felt such action would threaten the symbol of their state pride. Recognizing this, CEE carefully listened to the context and realigned the presentation of their proposal so that the relocation of the lion would then be viewed as a source of state pride and an act from which the stakeholders could feel gratification. It was very interesting to learn that, opposed to taking antagonistic positions against the parties they were working with to try to affect change, CEE instead rallies together key stakeholders so it can present its positions with a majority voice. Lastly, I learned about the importance of having a sound development communication strategy. As argued by Ashok Chatterjee, development communication strategies need to evolve out of problem analysis, as it is from there that development indicators are determined. In the commercial development sector, donors and funders most often look for quantifiable data to measure the impact of their investments. Thus, when it comes to accountability, development indicators are indispensable. Moreover, development indicators are not only requisite in the commercial sector of development, for as explained by Ashoki, even Mahatma Gandhi identified several development indicators in his quest for Indian independence. And as his chief indicator, Gandhi would commonly ask, "What is the benefit to the last in line?" Additionally, I learned about the importance of proxy indicators. For example, while a primary development indicator may only measure the number of latrines built as part of a development project, a proxy indicator would consider the amount of soap in proximity to the said latrines. Furthermore, I have come to understand that development indicators need to be revisited, reviewed, and revised at every stage of the process to ensure that they are still relevant to the development project. In closing, I wanted to address the question put to us prior to the start of our residency in India. When given the opportunity to express my desired learning outcomes for the course, I stated that above all, I wanted the relationships we were set to forge with our respective NGOs to be predicated on reciprocity. Reflecting on this desired learning outcome, now back home after spending an extraordinary 3 months in the country, I can say with certainty that I feel I have successfully achieved this goal. Despite the briefness of our field encounters, I feel the communities and organizations that we worked with also took away something from the experience, and that it was a mutually shared learning experience as opposed to being a purely extractive one. Moreover, if I had to identify a lesson from this course and the residency experience, whether it's for myself personally or on a professional development communication level in the future, I would have to say that the common thread is to learn to be a more active and reflective listener. Thank you for sharing this experience with me. It is one I will not soon forget.